Energy manipulator. Introduction. Stop. Before you settle into another promise about manifesting your dreams, before you prepare to hear the same recycled formulas about positive thinking and vision boards, I need you to understand something fundamental. This is not another manifestation book. This is not about attracting anything. This is about remembering what you already are. For too long, you've been told that you're incomplete, that you need to draw something toward you from the outside, that you're separate from what you desire. You've been taught to beg the universe, to align your chakras, to raise your vibration, to become worthy of receiving what you want. But what if all of that is backwards? What if the very act of trying to attract something is proof that you don't understand how creation actually works? Right now, as you listen to these words, you are not a seeker hoping to manifest a better life. You are a field of consciousness, a living frequency, a walking vibration that is constantly emitting signals into the quantum field of infinite possibility. You don't attract your reality. You emit it. You don't manifest your desires. You remember them. You don't become what you want. You recognize what you already are. The field that surrounds you, the invisible matrix of energy and information that quantum physicists are just beginning to understand, doesn't respond to your wishes or your wants. It responds to your being. It echoes back to you not what you think you deserve, not what you hope to achieve, but what you actually are in the depths of your consciousness. This is why most manifestation techniques fail. They're based on the illusion of separation, the false belief that you are here and your desires are there, and somehow you need to bridge that gap through effort, technique, or spiritual practice. But the truth is far more radical and far simpler. There is no gap. There is no separation. There is only you, recognizing yourself in the mirror of reality. Every person in your life, every circumstance you encounter, every challenge you face, every opportunity that appears, is not coming to you from outside. It's emerging from within you, from the field of consciousness that you are, reflecting back to you the exact frequency you're broadcasting, whether you're aware of it or not. Your body knows this truth even when your mind doesn't. Your nervous system is constantly reading the field, picking up information, sensing what's coming before your conscious mind has any idea. Your emotions are not reactions to what happens to you. They are the creative force that writes the script of what will happen to you. Your thoughts are not private events locked inside your head. They are frequencies that shape the very fabric of your experience. This understanding changes everything. When you realize that you're not trying to get something from life but expressing something as life, when you understand that you're not attracting experiences but emitting them, when you recognize that you're not becoming someone new but remembering who you've always been, the entire game changes. You stop chasing. You start being. You stop asking. You start knowing. You stop hoping. You start embodying. You stop trying to convince the universe to give you what you want. You start recognizing that you are the universe, experiencing itself through the unique perspective that is you. But here's what makes this journey challenging. Your mind has been programmed to believe in limitation, separation, and scarcity. Your nervous system has been conditioned to expect struggle, disappointment, and lack. Your emotional patterns have been shaped by years of believing that you're not enough, that you don't deserve good things, that life is hard, and then you will die. These programs are running in the background of your consciousness like malware on a computer, constantly broadcasting signals that create experiences you don't consciously want. They're the reason you keep attracting the same types of relationships, the same financial struggles, the same health challenges, the same emotional patterns. Not because you're cursed or unlucky, but because you're unconsciously emitting the frequency that creates these experiences. The journey we're about to take together is not about learning new techniques or acquiring more knowledge. It's about debugging your consciousness, clearing the interference, and returning to the pure signal of what you actually are. It's about recognizing the inner gatekeeper that's been blocking what you ask for, understanding why the mirror of reality never lies to you, and learning to emit the frequency of what you desire instead of the frequency of what you fear. You'll discover why your body knows before you do, why coherence is the language of creation, and why what you see in the world is always a reflection of who you are. You'll understand why doubt is the silent saboteur that undermines every conscious intention, and why emotion is the script that reality performs without question. Most importantly, you'll remember that you were never looking for anything outside yourself. You were always remembering what was already within you, recognizing your own infinite nature reflected in the experiences you call your life. This is not about becoming someone different. This is about being who you actually are. This is not about attracting a better life. This is about emitting the frequency of the life that's already yours. This is not about manifesting your desires. This is about recognizing that your desires are the universe's way of calling you home to yourself. Are you ready to stop attracting and start emitting? Are you ready to remember what you've always been? Then let's begin this journey into the truth of what you are, of what. Chapter 1. The field doesn't lie. It echoes what you really are. Imagine for a moment that you're standing in front of the most sophisticated mirror ever created. This mirror doesn't just reflect your physical appearance. It reflects your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs, your fears, your unconscious patterns, and your deepest assumptions about life. It shows you not what you pretend to be, but what you actually are in the core of your being. This mirror exists. It's called reality. And it never lies. The field of consciousness that surrounds you, the quantum matrix that physicists are discovering, underlies all physical reality, is constantly reading your internal state and reflecting it back to you as your external experience. It doesn't judge what it finds. It doesn't edit or improve or make suggestions. It simply echoes back to you the exact frequency you're broadcasting from the depths of your being. Most people don't understand this because they're focused on the surface level of their consciousness. They're aware of their conscious thoughts, their stated desires, and their good intentions. They think positive thoughts, set clear goals, and visualize their dreams. Then they wonder why their reality doesn't match their conscious efforts. But the field doesn't respond to your surface consciousness. It responds to your total consciousness, including all the parts you're not aware of, all the beliefs you inherited without questioning, all the emotional patterns you developed in childhood, and all the unconscious assumptions you've never examined. Think of your consciousness like an iceberg. The part above water, the part you're aware of, represents maybe 10% of what's actually there. The other 90%, the part below the surface, is what's really creating your reality. And most of that 90% was programmed before you were old enough to choose what to believe. By the time you were 7 years old, your subconscious mind had already downloaded the basic operating system that would run your life. You absorbed beliefs about money, relationships, success, health, spirituality, and your own worth from your parents, teachers, and culture. These beliefs became the invisible foundation of your consciousness, the background frequency that you broadcast into the field every moment of every day. The field reads this total signal, not just the conscious part. So you might consciously desire abundance while unconsciously believing that money is the root of all evil. You might consciously want love while unconsciously believing that you're not worthy of being loved. You might consciously seek success while unconsciously believing that you don't deserve good things. The field doesn't care about the contradiction. It simply reflects back to you the strongest, most consistent signal you're broadcasting. And usually the unconscious signal is much stronger than the conscious one because it's been running longer, it's more deeply embedded, and it's reinforced by emotional charge. This is why people can spend years doing affirmations, visualizations, and manifestation techniques without seeing significant changes in their lives. They're trying to override a deeply embedded program with surface-level thoughts. It's like trying to change the direction of a massive ship by blowing on the sails while the engine is running full speed in the opposite direction. But here's the beautiful thing about understanding how the field works. Once you recognize that your reality is always reflecting your consciousness back to you, you can use your reality as a diagnostic tool. You can look at what's showing up in your life and work backwards to understand what you must be broadcasting from the unconscious levels of your being. If you keep attracting partners who don't appreciate you, there's something in your consciousness that doesn't appreciate you. If you keep experiencing financial struggle, there's something in your consciousness that believes in scarcity. If you keep having health challenges, there's something in your consciousness that's out of harmony with vitality and well-being. This isn't about blame or judgment. It's about empowerment. Because if your consciousness is creating your reality, then changing your consciousness can change your reality. But you have to work at the level where the real programming exists, not just at the surface level of conscious thought. The field is incredibly precise. It doesn't make mistakes. It doesn't play favorites. It doesn't have good days and bad days. It simply reflects back to you exactly what you are, moment by moment, with mathematical accuracy. When you understand this, you stop being a victim of circumstances and start being a conscious creator of them. But the field also responds to authenticity. When you stop pretending to be something you're not and start being what you actually are, when you stop trying to convince yourself and others that you're different from what you are and start accepting yourself as you are, something magical happens. The field begins to reflect back to you the truth of your being rather than the lies you've been telling yourself. This is why self-acceptance is so powerful. Not because it makes you complacent, but because it stops the internal conflict that creates chaotic signals in the field. When you're at war with yourself, when part of you wants one thing and another part wants something else, when you're trying to be someone you're not, you broadcast mixed signals. And mixed signals create mixed results. But when you come into alignment with yourself, when you accept what is while choosing what you want to become, when you stop fighting against your current reality and start working with it, your signal becomes clear and coherent. And a clear, coherent signal creates clear, coherent results. The field doesn't lie because it can't lie. It's a perfect mirror reflecting back to you exactly what you are. The question is not whether the field is working. The question is whether you're willing to look honestly at what it's showing you about yourself. Your relationships are showing you how you relate to yourself. Your financial situation is showing you your beliefs about worth and value. Your health is showing you your relationship with life force and vitality. Your career is showing you how you express your gifts and talents. Your entire life is a perfect reflection of your consciousness, broadcast into the field and echoed back to you as experience. When you truly understand this, you stop trying to change your circumstances and start working on your consciousness. You stop blaming others for your problems and start taking responsibility for your creative power. You stop being surprised by what shows up in your life and start recognizing it as the perfect reflection of what you've been broadcasting. The field doesn't lie. It echoes what you really are. And when you're ready to see yourself clearly, to accept what is while choosing what you want to become, to work with the field instead of against it, your life becomes a conscious creation instead of an unconscious reaction. This is the first step in the journey from attracting to emitting. Understanding that you're not separate from what you experience, but that you are the source of what you experience. The field is not outside you, waiting to give you what you want. The field is you, reflecting back to you what you are. Chapter 2. Stop attracting, start emitting. The word attract implies that you're over here, and what you want is over there, and somehow you need to pull it toward you across the space that separates you. This fundamental misunderstanding has led millions of people down a path of spiritual struggle, trying to become worthy enough, vibrationally aligned enough, or energetically clear enough to draw their desires from some external source. But what if there is no external source? What if there is no separation? What if you're not trying to attract anything because you're already everything? The shift from attracting to emitting is not just a change in technique. It's a complete revolution in how you understand yourself and your relationship to reality. When you attract, you're operating from a consciousness of lack, believing that you don't have what you want and need to get it from somewhere else. When you emit, you're operating from a consciousness of wholeness, recognizing that what you seek is already within you, waiting to be expressed. Think about the sun. The sun doesn't attract light. The sun emits light. It doesn't try to become bright. It is bright. It doesn't hope that light will come to it from somewhere else. Light radiates from its very being, because that's what the sun is. The sun is not separate from light. The sun is light, expressing itself as radiance. You are the same. You are not separate from love, abundance, health, joy, or any other quality you desire. You are these qualities, expressing themselves through the unique form that is you. But you've been conditioned to believe that these qualities exist outside you, that you need to earn them, attract them, or become worthy of them. This conditioning creates a fundamental split in your consciousness. Part of you knows that you are infinite, unlimited, divine, but another part of you believes that you're small, separate, lacking. This split creates internal conflict, and internal conflict creates chaotic signals in the field. You end up broadcasting mixed messages, wanting abundance while feeling unworthy, desiring love while believing you're unlovable, seeking health while carrying patterns of dis-ease. The field responds to your total signal, not just the part you're conscious of. So even though you might consciously desire something, if you're unconsciously emitting the frequency of its absence, that's what you'll experience. You'll keep attracting evidence that you don't have what you want because that's the signal you're actually broadcasting. But when you shift from attracting to emitting, everything changes. Instead of trying to get love, you become love. Instead of trying to attract abundance, you embody abundance. Instead of hoping for health, you emit vitality. You stop asking the universe to give you what you want and start expressing what you are. This shift requires a fundamental change in identity. You must stop seeing yourself as a separate being trying to get something from life and start recognizing yourself as life itself, expressing through the unique perspective that is you. You must stop believing that you're incomplete and start knowing that you're whole. You must stop thinking that you need to become something and start being what you already are. But here's where most people get confused. They think that emitting means pretending to have what they don't have, acting as if their problems don't exist or denying their current circumstances. But that's not emitting. That's performing. And the field can tell the difference. True emitting comes from a deep recognition of what you actually are beneath all the conditioning, all the programming, all the false beliefs about limitation and separation. It comes from touching the place within you that has never been hurt, never been lacking, never been anything other than perfect, whole, and complete. This place exists in everyone. It's the part of you that existed before you learned to doubt yourself, before you absorbed limiting beliefs, before you forgot your true nature. It's the part of you that is connected to the infinite field of possibility, that knows itself as one with all that is, that recognizes no separation between itself and what it desires. When you emerge from this place, you're not trying to convince yourself or anyone else that you're something you're not. You're expressing what you've always been. You're not forcing a feeling or faking a vibration. You're allowing your true nature to shine through the clouds of conditioning that have been obscuring it. This is why authenticity is so important in the process of conscious creation. You can't emit what you don't genuinely feel. You can't broadcast a frequency that isn't actually present in your consciousness, but you can clear away the interference that's blocking your natural frequency. You can release the beliefs that contradict your true nature. You can heal the wounds that are distorting your signal. The process of learning to emit instead of attract is really a process of remembering who you are. It's about peeling away the layers of false identity that have accumulated over the years and returning to the truth of your being. It's about recognizing that you are not a human being having a spiritual experience, but a spiritual being having a human experience. When you truly understand this, you stop trying to get things from the universe and start expressing yourself as the universe. You stop asking for what you want and start being what you want. You stop hoping that your life will change and start changing your life by changing what you emit. This doesn't mean that you stop having desires or goals. It means that you approach them from a completely different place. Instead of wanting something because you don't have it, you want it because it's a natural expression of what you are. Instead of trying to attract it from outside, you allow it to emerge from within. Instead of working to become worthy of it, you recognize that you already are it. The shift from attracting to emitting is the shift from separation to unity, from lack to wholeness, from becoming to being. It's the recognition that you are not separate from what you desire, but that your desires are the universe's way of calling you home to yourself. When you emit instead of attract, you stop waiting for permission from the external world to be who you are. You stop looking for validation that you're worthy of good things. You stop trying to earn your place in the cosmic order. You simply begin to express the truth of what you are, and the field responds by reflecting that truth back to you as your lived experience. This is not a mental exercise or a visualization technique. This is a fundamental shift in how you exist in the world. When you walk into a room emitting confidence, people feel it. When you approach your work emitting passion, it shows in your results. When you enter relationships emitting love, you experience love. When you live your life emitting abundance, abundance becomes your natural state. The beautiful thing about emitting is that it's effortless once you understand it. You don't have to work to emit what you are any more than the sun has to work to emit light. It's your natural state. The effort comes from trying to be something you're not, from attempting to attract what you believe you lack, from struggling to become worthy of what you already are. When you stop attracting and start emitting, you discover that you've been carrying within you everything you've been seeking outside yourself. You realize that you are the love you've been looking for, the abundance you've been chasing, the peace you've been hoping to find. You understand that your desires were never about getting something you didn't have, but about expressing something you've always been. This is the secret that changes everything. You are not incomplete. You are not lacking. You are not separate from what you desire. You are the very thing you seek, temporarily forgetting itself, playing the game of rediscovery. And when you remember this truth, when you stop attracting and start emitting, your life becomes a celebration of what you are, rather than a struggle to become what you think you should be. Chapter 3. The body knows before you do. Your body is not just a vehicle for your consciousness. It's not just flesh and bone carrying around your thoughts and emotions. Your body is a sophisticated antenna, constantly tuning into frequencies that your mind hasn't even registered yet. It's reading the field, picking up information, sensing what's coming before your conscious awareness has any idea what's happening. Right now, as you listen to these words, your body is processing thousands of pieces of information that your mind is completely unaware of. Your nervous system is detecting subtle changes in electromagnetic fields. Your cells are responding to quantum fluctuations. Your intuitive centers are picking up signals from the morphic field that connects all consciousness. Your body knows things that your mind hasn't figured out yet. This is why you sometimes get a feeling about someone before you've had a chance to analyze them logically. This is why you sometimes know that something is about to happen before there's any rational reason to expect it. This is why you sometimes feel drawn to make a decision that doesn't make sense to your mind, but turns out to be exactly right. Your body is reading information from the field and translating it into sensation, intuition, and knowing. But most people have been trained to ignore their body's intelligence. We live in a culture that worships the mind and treats the body as an inconvenient necessity. We've been taught to override our body's signals, to push through fatigue, to ignore pain, to suppress emotions, to think our way through problems instead of feeling our way through them. This disconnection from body wisdom is one of the main reasons why people struggle with conscious creation. They're trying to manifest from their minds while their bodies are broadcasting a completely different signal. They're thinking positive thoughts while their nervous systems are locked in patterns of fear and stress. They're visualizing abundance while their cells are vibrating with scarcity and lack. The body doesn't lie. It can't pretend to feel something it doesn't feel. It can't fake a vibration or perform an emotion. When your body is tense, it's broadcasting tension into the field. When your body is relaxed, it's emitting peace. When your body is contracted with fear, that's the signal the field receives. When your body is expanded with joy, that's what gets reflected back to you. This is why working with the body is so crucial for anyone who wants to become a conscious creator. You can't just think your way into a new reality. You have to embody it. You have to feel it in your cells, breathe it into your nervous system, and allow it to become your physical reality before it can become your external reality. Your body is also where your unconscious programming lives. Every belief you absorbed as a child, every trauma you experienced, every pattern you developed is stored in your cellular memory. These patterns continue to run automatically, broadcasting their signals into the field, whether you're aware of them or not. When you were young, and someone told you that you weren't good enough, your body absorbed that message and created a physical pattern of not good enoughness. When you experienced rejection or abandonment, your nervous system developed strategies to protect you from feeling that pain again. When you learned that the world was dangerous or that you couldn't trust people, your body created patterns of hypervigilance and contraction. These patterns are still running in your system, creating the background frequency that shapes your reality. They're why you might consciously want success, but unconsciously sabotage yourself when you get close to achieving it. They're why you might desire love, but find yourself pushing people away when they get too close. They're why you might want abundance but feel guilty or anxious when money comes to you. The good news is that your body is also where transformation happens. Because the body exists in the present moment, it's where you can interrupt old patterns and install new ones. When you bring conscious awareness to your physical sensations, when you breathe into areas of tension and contraction, when you allow yourself to feel what you've been avoiding, you create the possibility for those patterns to shift. Your body is constantly giving you feedback about your vibrational state. When you're aligned with your truth, your body feels open, relaxed, and energized. When you're out of alignment, your body feels tense, contracted, and depleted. When you're moving toward what serves you, your body feels expansive and alive. When you're moving away from your path, your body feels heavy and resistant. Learning to read these signals is like developing an internal GPS system that can guide you toward the experiences you want to create. Your body knows when you're in the presence of someone who's good for you. It knows when an opportunity is aligned with your highest good. It knows when you're about to make a decision that will serve you, and when you're about to make one that won't. But you have to slow down enough to listen. You have to create space between stimulus and response so you can feel what your body is telling you. You have to trust that your body's intelligence is at least as valuable as your mind's analysis. You have to be willing to follow your body's guidance, even when it doesn't make logical sense. This is particularly important when you're working to create something new in your life. Your mind might have all kinds of ideas about how things should unfold, but your body knows the path of least resistance. Your mind might be attached to a specific timeline, but your body knows divine timing. Your mind might be focused on the goal, but your body knows the next step. When you learn to work with your body's intelligence instead of against it, creation becomes much more effortless. Instead of forcing outcomes through willpower and mental effort, you allow them to emerge through embodied knowing and intuitive action. Instead of pushing against resistance, you follow the flow that your body can sense, but your mind can't see. Your body is also where you can practice emitting the frequency of what you want to create before it shows up in your external reality. You can breathe abundance into your cells. You can feel love in your heart center. You can embody confidence in your posture and movement. You can practice being what you want to become until it becomes your natural state. This embodied practice is far more powerful than mental visualization because it engages your entire system. When your body believes something is true, your mind follows. When your nervous system is calibrated to a new frequency, your thoughts and emotions naturally align with that frequency. When your cells are vibrating with the energy of what you desire, the field has no choice but to reflect that energy back to you. The body knows before you do because it's connected to intelligence that transcends the limitations of the thinking mind. It's plugged into the quantum field, the morphic field, the field of infinite possibility. It's reading information from dimensions that your rational mind can't access. It's your direct connection to the wisdom of the universe. When you learn to trust your body's knowing, to follow its guidance, to work with its intelligence instead of overriding it, you discover that you have access to information and insight that can guide you toward the life you're meant to live. You realize that you don't have to figure everything out with your mind because your body already knows the way. Chapter 4. Coherence is the language of creation. When you try to tune into a radio station while someone is continuously changing the frequency, you might get clear music 1 minute, then static, then another station, then more static. This is what most people experience in their consciousness most of the time, and it explains why their attempts at conscious creation yield such inconsistent results. Coherence is when all parts of your being are aligned and broadcasting the same signal. It's when your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and actions are all pointing in the same direction. It's when there's no internal conflict, no mixed messages, no part of you wanting one thing while another part wants something else. When you achieve coherence, you become a clear, powerful transmitter, and the field responds with matching clarity and power. Most people live in a state of incoherence without even realizing it. They want abundance while feeling unworthy of it. They desire love while believing they're unlovable. They seek health while carrying stress and tension in their bodies. They ask for success while secretly fearing failure. They're broadcasting multiple conflicting signals simultaneously, and the field responds by giving them mixed, confusing, or contradictory results. Think of coherence like a laser versus a light bulb. A light bulb emits photons in all directions, creating diffuse illumination that can light up a room but has no focused power. A laser emits photons in perfect alignment, all moving in the same direction with the same frequency, creating a beam so focused it can cut through steel. The difference is not the amount of energy, but the coherence of that energy. When your consciousness is coherent, when all parts of your being are aligned with what you want to create, you become like a laser. Your creative power becomes focused, concentrated, irresistible. The field has no choice but to respond because you're giving it a clear, consistent signal with no interference or contradiction. But achieving coherence is not just about thinking positive thoughts or visualizing your goals. It requires addressing the deeper levels of your consciousness where conflicting programs might be running. It means healing the parts of you that don't believe you deserve what you want. It means resolving the internal conflicts that create mixed signals. It means bringing all aspects of your being into alignment with your conscious intentions. Your heart is the key to coherence. Scientists have discovered that the heart generates the strongest electromagnetic field in the body, 50 times stronger than the brain. When your heart is in a state of coherence, when you're feeling genuine emotions like love, gratitude, appreciation, or compassion, it creates a coherent electromagnetic field that influences every cell in your body and extends several feet beyond your physical form. This heart coherence is not just a nice feeling. It's a measurable physiological state that optimizes your entire system. When your heart is coherent, your brain waves become more ordered, your nervous system balances, your immune function improves, and your ability to think clearly and make good decisions increases dramatically. You literally become more intelligent, more creative, more intuitive when your heart is in coherence. But heart coherence also affects your ability to create your reality. When your heart is generating a coherent field, it acts like a powerful transmitter, broadcasting your intentions into the quantum field with clarity and strength. The field responds to this coherent signal by organizing circumstances, opportunities, and synchronicities that match your heart's true desires. This is why gratitude is such a powerful creative force. When you feel genuine gratitude, your heart naturally moves into coherence. You're not trying to get something you don't have. You're appreciating what you do have. This creates a coherent signal of abundance and appreciation that the field reflects back to you as more experiences to be grateful for. Love works the same way. When you're in a genuine state of love, not trying to get love but expressing love, your heart creates a coherent field that attracts loving experiences. You're not broadcasting need or lack. You're emitting the frequency of love itself, and the field responds by bringing you more opportunities to experience and express love. But coherence goes beyond just positive emotions. It's about alignment between all levels of your being. Your conscious mind might want success, but if your subconscious mind believes you don't deserve it, you're not coherent. Your heart might desire love, but if your body is contracted with fear of intimacy, you're not coherent. Your spirit might know you're infinite, but if your ego believes you're limited, you're not coherent. Creating coherence requires honest self-examination. You have to look at the places where you're divided against yourself, where different parts of you want different things, where your conscious desires conflict with your unconscious programming. You have to be willing to feel the emotions you've been avoiding, to examine the beliefs you've never questioned, to heal the wounds that are creating internal discord. This process isn't always comfortable, but it's essential for anyone who wants to become a powerful conscious creator. You can't emit a clear signal while you're internally conflicted. You can't create coherent results while you're broadcasting incoherent messages. You have to do the inner work to bring all parts of yourself into alignment. One of the most effective ways to create coherence is through what scientists call heart-focused breathing. When you breathe slowly and deeply while focusing your attention on your heart center, you naturally begin to generate heart coherence. As you practice this regularly, you train your system to maintain coherence even in challenging situations. You can enhance this practice by adding genuine feelings of appreciation, gratitude, or love while you're breathing into your heart. Think of someone or something you truly appreciate. Feel that appreciation in your heart as you breathe. Allow that feeling to expand throughout your entire being. This creates a coherent field that extends beyond your body and influences your environment. Another powerful practice is to regularly check in with yourself and ask, am I coherent right now? Are all parts of me aligned with what I say I want? If you notice incoherence, if you feel internal conflict or mixed emotions about your desires, take time to explore what's creating the discord. Often, simply bringing awareness to the conflict begins to resolve it. Coherence is also about integrity, about aligning your actions with your values, your words with your beliefs, your outer life with your inner truth. When there's a gap between who you are and how you're living, you create incoherence that interferes with your creative power. The field responds to your total signal, not just your intentions, so living in integrity is essential for clear creation. When you achieve coherence, when all parts of your being are aligned and broadcasting the same signal, something magical happens. Your creative power multiplies exponentially. Synchronicities increase. Opportunities appear. The right people show up at the right time. Obstacles dissolve. What seemed impossible becomes inevitable. This is because coherence is the language of creation. The universe itself operates through coherent patterns, from the spiral of galaxies to the structure of DNA. When you align yourself with this fundamental principle, when you become coherent in your own being, you harmonize with the creative force of the universe itself. Coherence is not a destination, but a practice. It's something you cultivate moment by moment, choice by choice, breath by breath. The more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. The more natural it becomes, the more powerful your creative abilities become, and the more powerful your creative abilities become, the more your life becomes a conscious expression of your deepest truth and highest potential. Chapter 5. What you see is who you are. Look around your life right now. Look at the people in your relationships, the circumstances of your work, the state of your health, the condition of your finances, and the quality of your daily experiences. What you're seeing is not random. It's not happening to you. It's not the result of luck, fate, or external forces beyond your control. What you see is who you are, reflected back to you with perfect precision by the field of consciousness that responds to your every thought, feeling, and belief. This is perhaps the most challenging truth for most people to accept because it requires taking complete responsibility for everything in your experience. It means acknowledging that the difficult people in your life are reflecting something within you. It means recognizing that your financial struggles are mirroring your internal relationship with abundance. It means understanding that your health challenges are expressing some form of dis-ease in your consciousness. But this truth is also the most liberating because it means you have the power to change everything. If what you see is who you are, then changing who you are will change what you see. If your external reality is a reflection of your internal reality, then transforming your inner world will transform your outer world. The mechanism behind this principle is what psychologists call projection. You don't see the world as it is. You see the world as you are. Your perception is filtered through your beliefs, your experiences, your emotional patterns, and your unconscious programming. You literally cannot see anything that doesn't already exist in some form within your own consciousness. When you look at someone and see them as untrustworthy, you're seeing your own capacity for untrustworthiness or your own fear of being betrayed. When you look at a situation and see it as hopeless, you're seeing your own feelings of hopelessness. When you look at the world and see scarcity, competition, and struggle, you're seeing the scarcity, competition, and struggle that exist within your own consciousness. This doesn't mean that external circumstances don't exist or that everything is just in your imagination. It means that your perception of those circumstances is always filtered through your own consciousness. And that consciousness is what determines your experience of reality. Two people can look at the exact same situation and have completely different experiences of it, because they're seeing it through different filters of consciousness. More importantly, the field of consciousness that creates your reality responds not to what's actually happening but to your perception of what's happening. If you perceive a threat, the field creates threatening experiences. If you perceive opportunity, the field creates opportunities. If you perceive love, the field reflects love back to you. If you perceive a lack, the field mirrors that lack in your circumstances. This is why changing your perception is so powerful. When you change how you see, you change what you experience. When you shift your perspective, you shift your reality. When you transform your inner vision, you transform your outer world. But here's what most people don't understand about this process. You can't just decide to see things differently at the surface level of your mind. You can't just think positive thoughts about negative situations and expect them to change. The perception that creates your reality comes from much deeper levels of consciousness, from the core beliefs and emotional patterns that were formed early in your life. If you grew up in an environment where love was conditional, where you had to perform or achieve to be accepted, you developed a deep pattern of seeing yourself as not good enough. This pattern becomes a filter through which you see everything. You see rejection where others see neutral responses. You see criticism where others see helpful feedback. You see evidence of your inadequacy where others see normal human imperfection. This filter doesn't just affect how you interpret events, it actually creates events that confirm your perception. Because you expect rejection, you unconsciously behave in ways that invite rejection. Because you believe you're not good enough, you unconsciously sabotage yourself when success comes too close. Because you see yourself as unworthy, you unconsciously attract people and situations that treat you as unworthy. The field responds to your deepest beliefs about yourself and life, not to your conscious desires or positive affirmations. If you believe at the core level that life is hard, that people can't be trusted, that you have to struggle to survive, that good things don't last, the field will create experiences that confirm these beliefs, regardless of what you consciously want. But the beautiful thing about understanding this principle is that it gives you a roadmap for transformation. Your external reality becomes a diagnostic tool that shows you exactly what's happening in your internal reality. Every person who triggers you is showing you something about yourself that needs healing. Every situation that frustrates you reveals a belief that needs examining. Every pattern that repeats in your life is pointing to a program that needs updating. When someone treats you with disrespect, instead of focusing on their behavior, you can ask yourself, how do I treat myself with disrespect? Where in my life do I not honor my own worth? When you keep attracting financial struggle, instead of blaming the economy or your circumstances, you can explore your deep beliefs about money, success, and your own value. This inner work is not about blame or self-criticism. It's about recognition and healing. When you see that your external reality is reflecting your internal reality, you can begin to work with the source instead of just trying to change the symptoms. You can heal the wounds that are creating the patterns. You can update the beliefs that are generating the experiences. You can transform the consciousness that is projecting the reality. As you do this work, as you heal the places within you that have been creating unwanted experiences, you'll notice that your external reality begins to shift. People start treating you differently, not because you're trying to change them, but because you're no longer broadcasting the frequency that invited their previous behavior. Opportunities start appearing, not because you're working harder, but because you're no longer blocking them with limiting beliefs. Relationships become more harmonious, not because others have changed, but because you're no longer projecting your own inner conflicts onto them. This process requires radical honesty with yourself. You have to be willing to see how you might be contributing to the very situations you complain about. You have to be willing to own the parts of yourself that you've been projecting onto others. You have to be willing to take responsibility for your role in creating your reality, even when it's uncomfortable to do so. But this honesty is also incredibly empowering because it reveals that you have far more control over your experience than you ever imagined. If what you see is who you are, then becoming who you want to be will change what you see. If your reality is a reflection of your consciousness, then evolving your consciousness will evolve your reality. The people in your life are mirrors, showing you aspects of yourself that you might not otherwise see. The situations you encounter are feedback, revealing the beliefs and patterns that are operating beneath your conscious awareness. The challenges you face are invitations, calling you to grow beyond the limitations that have been creating those challenges. You become a conscious producer of your circumstances rather than a victim of them when you realize that what you see is who you are. You begin to alter yourself instead of attempting to change the world. You begin to embody what you want instead of struggling against what you don't want. You look within for the ability to change instead of searching outside for someone to blame. This is the ultimate responsibility and the ultimate freedom. You are not at the mercy of external forces. You are the creative force, expressing itself through your consciousness and experiencing itself through your reality. What you see is who you are, and who you are is infinitely capable of becoming who you choose to be. Chapter 6. The Inner Gatekeeper. Why you keep blocking what you ask for. Deep within your consciousness lives a guardian that most people never meet face to face. This inner gatekeeper has been with you since childhood, silently determining what you're allowed to receive, what you're permitted to experience, and what you're worthy of having in your life. It operates below the threshold of your conscious awareness, making decisions about your reality based on programs that were installed long before you had the wisdom to choose what to believe about yourself and the world. This guardian is not malevolent. It's not an attempt to ruin your joy or prevent you from achieving your goals. Actually, it thinks it's keeping you safe. Your subconscious developed it as a survival technique to protect you from the hurt, rejection, and disappointment you either witnessed or experienced throughout your formative years. However, what protected you as a youngster now restricts you as an adult. Every time you ask for something new, every time you reach for a bigger life, every time you step toward your dreams, this inner gatekeeper evaluates whether it's safe for you to have what you're asking for. It checks your request against its database of beliefs about what you deserve, what's possible for someone like you, and what the consequences might be of getting what you want. And if your request doesn't pass its security clearance, it blocks it. This blocking doesn't happen through conscious resistance. You don't wake up in the morning and decide to sabotage your own success. The gatekeeper operates through unconscious mechanisms that are far more subtle and far more powerful than conscious resistance. It creates internal conflicts that generate mixed signals in the field. It activates old emotional patterns that lower your vibration. It triggers behaviors that push away the very things you're trying to attract. For example, you might consciously desire a loving relationship, while your inner gatekeeper believes that love leads to pain and abandonment. So every time you get close to someone who could truly love you, the gatekeeper activates patterns of fear, jealousy, or withdrawal that sabotage the relationship. You end up pushing away the love you say you want because your gatekeeper has determined that it's not safe for you to have it. Or you might consciously want financial abundance while your gatekeeper believes that money corrupts people or that you don't deserve wealth. So every time you start to succeed financially, the gatekeeper creates anxiety, guilt, or self-destructive behaviors that undermine your progress. You find ways to lose the money, avoid opportunities, or sabotage your success because your gatekeeper has decided that abundance is dangerous for you. The gatekeeper's beliefs were formed during your most impressionable years, when your young mind was absorbing messages about life, love, money, success, and your own worth. If you grew up in a family where money was scarce and associated with stress, your gatekeeper learned that money equals suffering. If you experienced love as conditional or painful, your gatekeeper learned that love equals danger. If you were criticized or shamed for being too big, too bright, or too much, your gatekeeper learned that visibility equals vulnerability. These early experiences created what psychologists call core wounds, deep beliefs about yourself and the world that shape your entire approach to life. The gatekeeper's job is to make sure you never experience those wounds again, even if it means preventing you from experiencing the joy, love, and success that you consciously desire. The gatekeeper is particularly active around what it perceives as your upper limits, the maximum amount of good that it believes you can safely handle. These upper limits are different for everyone and in different areas of life. You might have a high upper limit for professional success, but a low upper limit for personal happiness. You might be comfortable with moderate abundance, but terrified of true wealth. You might be fine with casual relationships, but panic when real intimacy becomes possible. When you approach one of these upper limits, the gatekeeper sounds the alarm. It floods your system with anxiety, doubt, or fear. It whispers stories about why you don't deserve what you're reaching for, why it won't last, why you'll be hurt or disappointed. It creates internal chaos that disrupts your ability to maintain the clear, coherent signal necessary for conscious creation. This is why so many people experience what seems like self-sabotage just when they're about to achieve their goals. They're not actually sabotaging themselves. They're bumping up against their gatekeeper's upper limits and experiencing the protective mechanisms that were designed to keep them safe, but are now keeping them small. The key to working with your inner gatekeeper is not to fight it or try to override it, but to understand it, appreciate its protective intention, and gently expand its definition of what's safe for you. This requires developing a relationship with this part of yourself, acknowledging its concerns, and gradually proving to it that you can handle more good in your life without being destroyed by it. The best strategy to collaborate with your gatekeeper is to determine your boundaries in various spheres of your life. Examine your relationships, economics, health, creativity, and happiness to see where you often reach a ceiling. Observe your thoughts, emotions, and actions as you get closer to these boundaries. What stories are in your head? Which feelings are most prevalent in your body? What behaviors do you find yourself engaging in that prevent you from reaching your full potential? You can start talking to the aspect of yourself that is causing these patterns once you've recognized them. You can find out what your gatekeeper is attempting to keep you safe from. You can investigate the initial events that taught it to be afraid of visibility, abundance, love, or success. While politely stating that you are no longer the defenseless child in need of that degree of protection, you might express gratitude for its protection. Compassion and patience are necessary for this procedure. For years, or maybe decades, your gatekeeper has been faithfully carrying out its duties. Just because your conscious mind has decided it wants something else doesn't mean it will change its programming overnight. You must demonstrate to it that it is safe for you to have more, be more, and receive more by your constant behavior and experiences. You can do this by gradually expanding your comfort zone in small, manageable increments. If your gatekeeper has an upper limit around money, you might start by allowing yourself to receive small amounts without guilt or anxiety. If it has limits around love, you might practice receiving compliments or affection without deflecting or withdrawing. If it has limits around success, you might celebrate small wins without minimizing them or waiting for the other shoe to drop. As you prove to your gatekeeper that you can handle these smaller expansions without being hurt or destroyed, it begins to relax its vigilance. It starts to update its database of what's safe for you. It gradually raises your upper limits, allowing you to receive more of what you desire without triggering its protective mechanisms. Working with your inner gatekeeper also involves healing the original wounds that created its protective programming. This might require therapy, energy work, or other forms of healing that help you process and integrate the experiences that taught you to fear your own power and potential. As these wounds heal, the gatekeeper's need to protect you from them diminishes. The ultimate goal is not to eliminate your inner gatekeeper, but to transform it from a fearful protector into a wise guardian that supports your highest good. When this transformation occurs, the gatekeeper becomes an ally in your conscious creation process, helping you discern what truly serves you while allowing you to receive all the good that life has to offer. Understanding and working with your inner gatekeeper is essential for anyone who wants to become a powerful conscious creator. Until you address this unconscious level of resistance, you'll continue to block what you ask for, sabotage what you create, and limit yourself to a fraction of what's actually possible for you. But when you heal this relationship, when you expand these limits, when you prove to yourself that you can safely handle more good in your life, your capacity for conscious creation expands exponentially. Chapter 7. The mirror will not lie to you. Reality is the most honest mirror you will ever encounter. It doesn't flatter you with false reflections. It doesn't hide your flaws or exaggerate your virtues. It doesn't tell you what you want to hear or spare your feelings. It simply shows you exactly what you are, moment by moment, with unwavering accuracy and perfect precision. This mirror reflects not just your conscious thoughts and intentions, but the totality of your consciousness. It shows you your hidden beliefs, your suppressed emotions, your unconscious patterns, your deepest fears, and your most secret desires. It reveals the parts of yourself that you've been trying to hide, even from yourself. It exposes the contradictions between what you say you want and what you actually believe you deserve. Most people don't like what they see in this mirror, so they spend their lives trying to change the reflection instead of changing themselves. They blame their circumstances on other people, bad luck, unfair systems, or forces beyond their control. They focus on fixing their external problems while ignoring the internal patterns that created those problems. They try to manipulate their environment while remaining unconscious of the consciousness that's creating their environment. But the mirror will not be fooled. You cannot change your reflection by arguing with it, fighting it, or pretending it's not there. You cannot create lasting change in your external reality without addressing the internal reality that's generating it. The mirror will continue to show you the truth of what you are until you're ready to see it, accept it, and work with it. This is both the challenge and the gift of conscious living. The challenge is that you must face yourself honestly, without the comfortable illusions that most people use to avoid taking responsibility for their lives. You must acknowledge that your relationships are reflecting your relationship with yourself, that your financial situation is mirroring your beliefs about worth and value, that your health is expressing your relationship with life force and vitality. The gift is that once you understand how the mirror works, you have a precise feedback system that can guide you toward the life you truly want to create. Every experience becomes information about your consciousness. Every person who triggers you reveals something about yourself that needs healing. Every pattern that repeats in your life points to a belief that needs examining. Every challenge you face shows you where you need to grow. When you stop fighting the mirror and start learning from it, your entire relationship with life transforms. Instead of being a victim of circumstances, you become a student of consciousness. Instead of feeling powerless to change your situation, you recognize that you have the ultimate power to change yourself. Instead of waiting for the world to be different, you begin the work of becoming different yourself. The mirror shows you not only your current state of consciousness, but also your potential for growth. Every challenge is an invitation to expand beyond your current limitations. Every difficult person is a teacher showing you where you need to develop more compassion, boundaries, or self-love. Every obstacle is an opportunity to discover strengths and resources you didn't know you had. But reading the mirror accurately requires developing what spiritual teachers call witness consciousness, the ability to observe your life with detachment and objectivity. This doesn't mean becoming cold or disconnected. It means developing the capacity to see your patterns without being completely identified with them, to recognize your reactions without being overwhelmed by them, to understand your role in creating your experiences without drowning in guilt or self-blame. This witness consciousness allows you to see the deeper patterns beneath surface events. You begin to notice that the same types of conflicts arise in different relationships, that similar challenges appear in various areas of your life, and that certain themes repeat across different circumstances. These patterns are not coincidences. They are your consciousness expressing itself consistently across multiple contexts. For example, if you notice that you consistently attract people who don't appreciate your efforts, the mirror is showing you that you don't fully appreciate yourself. If you keep experiencing financial stress, despite working hard, the mirror is revealing beliefs about scarcity, unworthiness, or the relationship between effort and reward that exist in your consciousness. If you repeatedly find yourself in situations where you feel powerless, the mirror is reflecting places where you've given your power away to others or to circumstances. The mirror also shows you your growth and evolution. As you do the inner work to heal old wounds, update limiting beliefs, and expand your consciousness, you'll notice that your external reality begins to shift accordingly. People start treating you differently because you're treating yourself differently. Opportunities appear because you're no longer blocking them with unconscious resistance. Relationships become more harmonious because you're no longer projecting your inner conflicts onto others. This feedback loop between inner and outer reality is one of the most powerful tools for conscious development. It allows you to track your progress not just through how you feel internally, but through how your life unfolds externally. When you see positive changes in your circumstances, you know that real transformation is occurring at the level of consciousness. When you notice old patterns still playing out, you know there's more work to be done. But the mirror requires patience and persistence to read accurately. Sometimes there's a delay between inner shifts and outer manifestations. Sometimes things get worse before they get better, as old patterns surface to be healed. Sometimes the mirror shows you things about yourself that are difficult to accept or acknowledge. The key is to trust the process and continue doing the inner work, even when the external results aren't immediately visible. The mirror also reflects your relationship with truth itself. If you're committed to seeing yourself clearly, to acknowledging your role in creating your reality, to taking responsibility for your consciousness, the mirror will show you exactly what you need to see to continue growing. But if you're invested in maintaining illusions about yourself or your life, if you're more committed to being right than to being free, the mirror will reflect that resistance back to you as confusion, stagnation, or repeated patterns. One of the most profound aspects of working with the mirror is learning to see the perfection in what appears to be imperfection. Every experience, even the difficult ones, serves your evolution in some way. Every person who challenges you is helping you develop qualities you need to cultivate. Every obstacle you encounter is strengthening capacities that will serve you in the future. The mirror shows you not just what is, but what's possible when you learn to work with what is. This doesn't mean becoming passive or accepting harmful situations. It means understanding that your external circumstances are always giving you information about your internal state and opportunities for growth. When you can see this information clearly, when you can receive the feedback without defensiveness or denial, you can make the internal adjustments that will create external changes. The mirror will not lie to you because it cannot lie to you. It's simply the natural law of consciousness expressing itself as experience. Your thoughts, beliefs, emotions, and expectations create a vibrational frequency that the field of consciousness reflects back to you as your lived reality. This process is as reliable and impersonal as any physical law. Understanding this gives you tremendous power because it means you can change your reality by changing your consciousness. But it also requires tremendous honesty because it means you must face the truth about what your consciousness has been creating. The mirror will show you exactly where you are, so you can choose where you want to go. When you embrace the mirror as your teacher, rather than fighting it as your enemy, when you use it as a tool for growth rather than a source of blame, when you trust its feedback rather than denying its reflections, you discover that it's the most valuable ally you could have on your journey of conscious creation. It will never lie to you, never mislead you, never tell you what you want to hear instead of what you need to know. The mirror is always available, always accurate, always reflecting the truth of your consciousness back to you as your experience. The question is not whether the mirror is working. The question is whether you're ready to see what it's showing you and use that information to become who you're capable of being. Chapter 8. Visualize like you already are, not like you're still waiting. Most people approach visualization from a place of lack, creating mental movies of what they don't have, imagining scenarios that exist somewhere in the future, painting pictures of a life that's different from the one they're currently living. This approach, while well-intentioned, actually reinforces the very separation and scarcity that keep their desires from manifesting. When you visualize from lack, when you create images of what you want because you don't have it, you're broadcasting the frequency of not having it. You're affirming your current state of separation from your desires. You're telling the field that what you want exists somewhere else, sometime else, for someone else, but not here, not now, not for you. The field responds to this signal by maintaining the gap between you and what you desire. It keeps your dreams in the future because that's where your consciousness has placed them. It maintains the separation because that's what your visualization is actually affirming, despite your conscious intentions. But there's a completely different way to approach visualization, a way that collapses the gap between desire and fulfillment, between dreaming and being, between wanting and having. Instead of visualizing what you want to attract, you visualize from the state of already being what you desire. Instead of imagining a future where you have what you want, you imagine from the present moment of already having it. This shift is not just semantic, it's a fundamental change in the consciousness from which you're creating. When you visualize like you already are what you desire, you're not trying to get something from outside yourself. You're expressing something that already exists within yourself. You're not reaching for a future state, you're embodying a present reality. Think about the difference between imagining yourself as someone who wants to be confident and imagining yourself as someone who is confident. When you visualize wanting confidence, you're affirming that you don't have it. When you visualize being confident, you're activating the confidence that already exists within you. The first approach reinforces the lack. The second approach activates presence. This is why the most powerful visualization happens not when you're trying to create something new, but when you're remembering something that's always been true. You're not manufacturing confidence out of nothing. You're accessing the confidence that's your natural state when fear and doubt are not present. You're not creating love from scratch. You're removing the barriers to the love that you are. When you visualize like you already are, you're not performing for the universe or trying to convince it to give you what you want. You're simply being what you are and allowing that being to express itself through your imagination. You're not asking for permission to be happy, successful, loved, or abundant. You're giving yourself permission to experience these states right now, in this moment, through the power of your consciousness. This approach requires a fundamental shift in identity. You must stop seeing yourself as someone who lacks what you desire and start recognizing yourself as someone who already is what you desire. You must stop believing that you need to become something different and start knowing that you need only to express what you already are. But this shift can't be forced or faked. You can't just decide to feel abundant if you're deeply identified with scarcity. You can't just choose to feel loved if you're convinced you're unlovable. You can't just pretend to be confident if you're overwhelmed by self-doubt. The visualization must emerge from a genuine recognition of what's already true about you beneath all the conditioning and programming. This is where the practice becomes both an art and a science. You must learn to touch the place within you that has never been lacking, never been broken, never been anything other than whole and complete. You must access the part of your consciousness that exists before and beyond all the stories you've told yourself about limitation and separation. This place exists in everyone. It's the part of you that existed before you learned to doubt yourself, before you absorbed limiting beliefs, before you forgot your true nature. It's the part of you that is connected to infinite possibility, that knows itself as one with all that is, that recognizes no separation between itself and what it desires. When you visualize from this place, when you imagine from this state of wholeness and completion, your visualization becomes a form of remembering rather than wanting. You're not trying to create something new. You're allowing something eternal to express itself through your consciousness. You're not reaching for a future state. You're embodying a timeless truth. This kind of visualization feels different from the effortful, striving kind that most people practice. It feels natural, effortless, like coming home to yourself. There's no sense in trying to convince yourself of something that isn't true. There's only the recognition of something that has always been true, but perhaps forgotten or obscured. When you visualize like you already are, you're not just creating mental pictures, you're activating dormant potentials within your consciousness. You're awakening capacities that have been sleeping. You're remembering abilities that you've always had but perhaps never accessed. You're not becoming someone new. You're becoming more fully yourself. This approach also changes the emotional quality of your visualization. Instead of the longing, yearning, or desperation that often accompanies wanting-based visualization, you experience satisfaction, fulfillment, and gratitude. You're not imagining what you hope to have someday. You're appreciating what you recognize you already are. The field responds to this completely different signal. Instead of receiving a broadcast of lack and separation, it receives a transmission of wholeness and presence. Instead of maintaining the gap between you and your desires, it begins to collapse that gap. Instead of keeping your dreams in the future, start bringing them into the present. But perhaps most importantly, this kind of visualization changes you in the process. When you regularly spend time in the consciousness of already being what you desire, that consciousness begins to stabilize as your natural state. You don't just visualize confidence occasionally, you begin to embody confidence consistently. You don't just imagine abundance during meditation, you start to live from abundance throughout your day. This is the real power of visualizing like you already are. It's not just a technique for manifesting external results. It's a practice for embodying your true nature, for expressing your highest potential, for living from the truth of what you are rather than the illusion of what you lack. When you master this approach, visualization becomes less about getting something you want and more about being someone you are. It becomes less about changing your circumstances and more about expressing your essence. It becomes less about attracting a better life and more about emanating the life that's already yours. Chapter 9. Emotion is the script, reality just performs it. If you want to understand how reality is created, don't look at thoughts, don't analyze beliefs, don't study visualization techniques. Look at emotion. Emotion is the creative force that writes the script of your experience, and reality is simply the faithful actor that performs whatever script you've written without question, without judgment, without deviation. Most people have this backwards. They think that emotions are reactions to what happens to them, responses to external circumstances, and effects of the events in their lives. They believe that they feel happy because good things happen, sad because bad things occur, angry because they've been wronged, and fearful because they're in danger. But this understanding keeps them trapped in a reactive cycle, forever at the mercy of circumstances beyond their control. The truth is far more empowering and far more radical. Emotions are not reactions to your reality. Emotions are the creative force that generates your reality. You don't feel abundant because you have money. You have money because you feel abundant. You don't feel loved because people treat you well. People treat you well because you feel loved. You don't feel confident because you succeed. You succeed because you feel confident. Emotion is the language that the field of consciousness understands most clearly. While your thoughts might be confused, contradictory, or constantly changing, your emotions carry a pure vibrational signal that the field can read and respond to with perfect accuracy. When you feel fear, the field creates fearful experiences. When you feel joy, the field manifests joyful circumstances. When you feel grateful, the field brings you more to be grateful for. This is why people who are naturally optimistic tend to have better lives, why those who expect good things tend to receive them, and why individuals who feel worthy tend to be treated with respect. It's not because they're lucky or privileged or somehow special. It's because their emotional state is writing a script that reality performs with unwavering consistency. But here's what most people don't understand about this process. The emotions that create your reality are not the surface emotions that you're consciously aware of. They're the deeper emotional patterns that run in the background of your consciousness, the feeling tones that you carry most of the time, the emotional atmosphere that surrounds you even when you're not paying attention to it. You might consciously feel excited about a new opportunity while unconsciously carrying a deep pattern of unworthiness that sabotages your success. You might think positive thoughts about love while emotionally vibrating with the fear of abandonment that pushes people away. You might visualize abundance while feeling the chronic anxiety about money that keeps you in financial struggle. The field responds to the strongest, most consistent emotional signal you're broadcasting, not to the temporary emotions you experience in response to specific events. If your baseline emotional state is anxiety, worry, and fear, that's the script that reality will perform, regardless of your conscious desires or positive thinking efforts. This is why emotional healing is so crucial for anyone who wants to become a conscious creator. You can't just think your way into a new reality. You have to feel your way into it. You have to address the emotional patterns that are writing the script of your current experience and consciously choose new emotions that will write a different script. But changing your emotional patterns is not about forcing yourself to feel differently or pretending to have emotions you don't actually have. The field can tell the difference between authentic emotion and performed emotion. Fake positivity doesn't create positive results. Forced gratitude doesn't generate abundance. Artificial confidence doesn't produce success. True emotional transformation happens when you heal the wounds that created the limiting emotional patterns in the first place. When you resolve the childhood trauma that taught you to feel unworthy, the feeling of unworthiness naturally dissolves and is replaced by your natural state of inherent worth. When you heal the abandonment wound that created your fear of intimacy, the fear dissolves and is replaced by your natural capacity for love and connection. This healing process often involves feeling the emotions you've been avoiding, processing the pain you've been suppressing, and allowing yourself to experience the full range of human emotion without judgment or resistance. Paradoxically, the willingness to feel difficult emotions fully often allows them to transform and release, making space for more positive emotions to emerge naturally. As you heal these deeper patterns, as you clear the emotional debris that's been writing unwanted scripts in your life, you begin to access your natural emotional states. Beneath all the conditioning and programming, beneath all the wounds and fears, you are naturally joyful, naturally loving, naturally confident, naturally abundant. These are not emotions you need to create. They are emotions you need to uncover. When you operate from these natural emotional states, when you feel from the truth of what you are rather than the illusion of what you lack, your emotional script changes dramatically. Instead of writing stories of struggle, limitation, and separation, you begin to write stories of ease, possibility, and connection. Instead of creating experiences that confirm your wounds, you start generating experiences that reflect your wholeness. The field responds to this new emotional script by performing a completely different reality. Opportunities appear that match your new emotional state. People show up who resonate with your transformed energy. Circumstances align that support your elevated emotional frequency. Your external world reorganizes itself to match your internal emotional transformation. But this process requires consistency and patience. You can't just feel good for a few minutes during meditation and expect your entire life to change. You have to cultivate these positive emotional states as your new baseline, your default setting, your natural way of being in the world. You have to practice feeling abundant until abundance becomes your emotional home. You have to embody love until love becomes your natural frequency. Daily emotional practices are crucial for this reason. To preserve emotional well-being and creative potential, you must train your emotional body in the same way that you may exercise your physical body. This could include visualization exercises that elicit feelings of joy and fulfillment, meditation techniques that provide inner peace, or gratitude practices that foster appreciation. Regardless of your present situation, the secret is to select feelings that are consistent with the reality you wish to build, and then consistently practice experiencing those feelings. Pretending that issues don't exist, or ignoring your present reality are not the goals here. Understanding that your emotional state is the creative force influencing your future reality is the key. You become the author of your experience rather than a victim of your circumstances when you realize that emotion is the script and reality is only the performance. You begin feeling better so that your life may change rather than waiting for it to change. You begin to use your emotional state to determine your external occurrences instead of allowing them to dictate your emotional state. The capacity to choose your emotional state in any situation, to create the story of your life with the emotions you develop, and to guide the performance of reality with the feelings you embody is the ultimate creative power. You become the conscious creator of your own experience once you have mastered this power, when you become aware of the sentiments you are generating and deliberate about the ones you are broadcasting. Emotion writes the screenplay, and reality always follows it. The question is whether you're actively writing that script or not, whether you're actively choosing your emotions or allowing them to be determined by your circumstances, and whether you're actively directing the performance of your life or passively watching it play out. Chapter 10. Doubt is the silent saboteur. There is a voice in your mind so subtle, so familiar, so seemingly reasonable, that you barely notice it's there. It doesn't scream or shout or demand attention. It whispers, it suggests. It plants tiny seeds of uncertainty that grow into forests of limitation. This voice is doubt, and it is the silent saboteur that undermines every conscious intention, every positive affirmation, every attempt at deliberate creation. Doubt is not dramatic. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare or obvious resistance. It operates in the shadows of your consciousness, quietly eroding your confidence, gradually weakening your resolve, slowly convincing you that what you want is impossible, impractical, or not meant for you. It's the voice that says, "But what if?" when you're feeling hopeful. Be realistic when you're dreaming big. That's not how the world works. When you're imagining possibilities. Most people don't recognize doubt as the creative force that it is. They think of it as a natural, even healthy response to uncertainty. They believe that doubt keeps them grounded, protects them from disappointment, and helps them make rational decisions. But doubt is not neutral. Doubt is not protective. Doubt is a creative force that generates experiences of limitation, lack, and failure with the same precision that faith generates experiences of abundance, possibility, and success. When you doubt, you're not just questioning whether something is possible. You're actively creating the conditions that make it impossible. You're broadcasting a signal into the field that says, "I don't believe this can happen," and the field responds by ensuring that it doesn't happen. You're writing a script of limitation with your doubt, and reality performs that script with perfect fidelity. The insidious nature of doubt is that it often masquerades as wisdom, realism, or common sense. It tells you that you're being smart by not getting your hopes up, that you're being responsible by considering all the ways things could go wrong, that you're being mature by accepting limitations as facts rather than choices. But this apparent wisdom is actually a form of unconscious creation that keeps you trapped in cycles of mediocrity and disappointment. Doubt operates through a mechanism that psychologists call confirmation bias. Once you doubt something is possible, your mind begins to filter reality to find evidence that supports that doubt. You notice all the reasons why your dreams won't work, while overlooking the opportunities that could make them happen. You focus on the obstacles while missing the solutions. You collect evidence of limitation while ignoring proof of possibility. This selective perception becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more evidence you gather that supports your doubt, the stronger your doubt becomes. The stronger your doubt becomes, the more it influences your decisions, your actions, and your energy. You stop taking risks, stop pursuing opportunities, stop believing in yourself. You create the very limitations that your doubt predicted, then point to those limitations as proof that your doubt was justified. But doubt is not based on objective reality. It's based on past programming, inherited beliefs, and conditioned responses that were installed in your consciousness long before you had the wisdom to choose what to believe. The doubt that tells you that you can't have what you want is often the same doubt that your parents, teachers, or culture carried about their own possibilities. You've inherited their limitations and made them your own. The voice of doubt often sounds like the voice of reason, because it's been with you for so long that you've mistaken it for your own inner wisdom. But true inner wisdom doesn't limit possibilities. It expands them. True wisdom doesn't focus on why things can't work. It explores how they might work. True wisdom doesn't protect you from disappointment by preventing you from trying. It encourages you to try while helping you learn from whatever results you create. Recognizing doubt as the saboteur that it is requires developing the ability to distinguish between the voice of doubt and the voice of genuine inner guidance. Doubt always speaks in terms of limitation, impossibility, and fear. It always focuses on what could go wrong, what you lack, and what you can't do. Inner wisdom speaks in terms of possibility, growth, and love. It focuses on what could go right, what you have to offer, and what you're capable of becoming. Doubt also has a particular feeling tone that you can learn to recognize. It feels heavy, contracting, discouraging. It drains your energy and dampens your enthusiasm. It makes you feel small, powerless, and separate from your desires. Inner wisdom feels light, expanding, and encouraging. It energizes you and ignites your passion. It makes you feel capable, powerful, and connected to infinite possibility. Once you learn to recognize doubt, you can begin to work with it consciously instead of being unconsciously controlled by it. This doesn't mean fighting doubt or trying to eliminate it completely. Resistance to doubt often strengthens it. Instead, you can acknowledge doubt when it arises, thank it for its concern, and then choose to focus on possibility instead of limitation. You can also question the assumptions that doubt is based on. When doubt tells you that something is impossible, you can ask, according to whom? Based on what evidence? Is this actually true, or is this just a belief I've inherited? When doubt warns you about potential failure, you can ask, what if I succeed? What if this works out better than I can imagine? What if my doubt is wrong? The most powerful antidote to doubt is not positive thinking, but positive experience. Every time you take action despite your doubt and create a positive result, you weaken doubt's hold on your consciousness. Every time you prove to yourself that you're more capable than your doubt suggested, you build evidence for possibility instead of limitation. Every time you succeed at something you doubted was possible, you expand your sense of what's available to you. This is why it's so important to start with small steps when you're working to overcome doubt. If you've been doubting your ability to create abundance, start by creating small amounts of money in unexpected ways. If you've been doubting your worthiness of love, start by receiving small gestures of kindness and appreciation. If you've been doubting your creative abilities, start by expressing your creativity in low-risk ways. As you accumulate evidence that contradicts your doubt, as you prove to yourself that you're more powerful than your limitations suggest, as you demonstrate that possibilities exist beyond what your doubt can see, your relationship with doubt begins to change. You stop automatically believing everything it tells you. You start questioning its authority. You begin to recognize it as one voice among many, not the voice of ultimate truth. The goal is not to eliminate doubt completely, but to prevent it from being the dominant voice in your consciousness. Some degree of discernment and careful consideration is healthy and appropriate. But when doubt becomes the primary filter through which you see possibilities, when it becomes the default response to new opportunities, when it becomes the voice that makes your decisions for you, it has become a saboteur that limits your life far more than it protects it. Doubt is the silent saboteur because it operates below the threshold of conscious awareness, quietly undermining your creative power while convincing you that it's helping you. But when you bring doubt into the light of consciousness, when you recognize it as a choice rather than a fact, when you understand it as a creative force rather than a protective mechanism, you can begin to choose faith over doubt, possibility over limitation, expansion over contraction. The field responds to whatever you believe most strongly, and doubt is a form of belief. When you doubt, you're believing in limitation. When you have faith, you're believing in possibility. The choice is always yours, moment by moment, thought by thought, belief by belief. The question is whether you'll let doubt write the script of your life, or whether you'll choose to write a different script based on faith, possibility, and the recognition of your infinite creative power. Chapter 11. You were never looking. You were remembering. There's a profound shift that happens when you realize that everything you've been seeking outside yourself has always existed within you. All the love you've been trying to attract, all the abundance you've been working to manifest, all the peace you've been hoping to find, all the joy you've been chasing, all the success you've been striving for, has never been absent from you. You were never actually looking for these things. You were remembering them. This understanding changes everything about the spiritual journey, about personal development, about conscious creation. It means you're not broken and in need of fixing. You're not incomplete and in need of completion. You're not lacking and in need of fulfillment. You're whole, complete and abundant by nature, temporarily forgetting your true nature, playing the cosmic game of hide and seek with yourself. The seeking itself is what creates the illusion of separation from what you seek. When you look for love outside yourself, you affirm that love is not within you. When you chase abundance in the external world, you declare that abundance is not your natural state. When you search for peace in circumstances, relationships, or achievements, you confirm that peace is not your essence. But what if the very thing you're seeking is the one who's doing the seeking? What if the love you want to attract is the love that you are? What if the abundance you're trying to manifest is the abundance that you've always been? What if the peace you're hoping to find is the peace that is your deepest nature? This is not a metaphor or a spiritual platitude. This is the literal truth of what you are. Beneath all the conditioning, beneath all the programming, beneath all the stories you've told yourself about limitation and separation, you are pure consciousness, infinite potential, unlimited creative power. You are the very qualities you've been seeking, temporarily disguised as someone who doesn't have them. The journey of conscious creation, then, is not about becoming something you're not. It's about remembering what you've always been. It's not about acquiring qualities you lack. It's about uncovering qualities that have been obscured by false beliefs and limiting patterns. It's not about attracting experiences from outside yourself. It's about expressing experiences from within yourself. This remembering process often begins with glimpses, moments when the veil of separation temporarily lifts and you experience yourself as you truly are. Maybe it's a moment of profound love when you feel connected to all of life. Maybe it's an experience of creative flow when you feel like a channel for infinite intelligence. Maybe it's a time of deep peace when you recognize the stillness that is your essence. Chapter 11. You were never looking. You were remembering. There's a profound shift that happens when you realize that everything you've been seeking outside yourself has always existed within you. All the love you've been trying to attract, all the abundance you've been working to manifest, all the peace you've been hoping to find, all the joy you've been chasing, all the success you've been striving for, has never been absent from you. You were never actually looking for these things. You were remembering them. This understanding changes everything about the spiritual journey, about personal development, about conscious creation. It means you're not broken and in need of fixing. You're not incomplete and in need of completion. You're not lacking and in need of fulfillment. You're whole, complete and abundant by nature, temporarily forgetting your true nature, playing the cosmic game of hide and seek with yourself. The seeking itself is what creates the illusion of separation from what you seek. When you look for love outside yourself, you affirm that love is not within you. When you chase abundance in the external world, you declare that abundance is not your natural state. When you search for peace in circumstances, relationships, or achievements, you confirm that peace is not your essence. But what if the very thing you're seeking is the one who's doing the seeking? What if the love you want to attract is the love that you are? What if the abundance you're trying to manifest is the abundance that you've always been? What if the peace you're hoping to find is the peace that is your deepest nature? This is not a metaphor or a spiritual platitude. This is the literal truth of what you are. Beneath all the conditioning, beneath all the programming, beneath all the stories you've told yourself about limitation and separation, you are pure consciousness, infinite potential, unlimited creative power. You are the very qualities you've been seeking, temporarily disguised as someone who doesn't have them. The journey of conscious creation, then, is not about becoming something you're not. It's about remembering what you've always been. It's not about acquiring qualities you lack. It's about uncovering qualities that have been obscured by false beliefs and limiting patterns. It's not about attracting experiences from outside yourself. It's about expressing experiences from within yourself. This remembering process often begins with glimpses, moments when the veil of separation temporarily lifts and you experience yourself as you truly are. Maybe it's a moment of profound love when you feel connected to all of life. Maybe it's an experience of creative flow when you feel like a channel for infinite intelligence. Maybe it's a time of deep peace when you recognize the stillness that is your essence. The process of remembering is often gradual, happening in layers as you're ready to receive each new level of truth about yourself. You might first remember that you are loved, then that you are love itself. You might first remember that you are supported, then that you are the support. You might first remember that you are blessed, then that you are the blessing. Each layer of remembering brings you closer to the ultimate recognition, that you are not separate from the creative force of the universe, but are that force expressing itself through the unique perspective that is you. You are not a wave separate from the ocean, but the ocean expressing itself as a wave. You are not a ray separate from the sun, but the sun expressing itself as a ray. This remembering is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process of awakening to deeper and deeper levels of truth about your nature. Each day offers new opportunities to remember who you are, to express what you are, to embody the truth that you've temporarily forgotten. Each challenge becomes an invitation to remember your power. Each relationship becomes a mirror reflecting your love. Each experience becomes a canvas for expressing your creativity. The ultimate remembering is the recognition that there was never anything to seek because you were never actually lost. There was never anything to find because you were never actually missing. There was never anything to become because you were never actually incomplete. You were always whole, always perfect, always exactly what you were seeking, just temporarily playing the game of forgetting so you could experience the joy of remembering. When this remembering becomes complete, when you fully recognize yourself as the source of what you seek, the seeking ends and the being begins. You stop trying to attract your good and start expressing your good. You stop working to manifest your desires and start embodying your desires. You stop hoping for a better life and start living the life you've always had. This is the end of the spiritual search and the beginning of spiritual expression. This is the completion of the journey and the commencement of the dance. This is the moment when you realize that you were never looking for anything outside yourself. You were always just remembering what you've always been, what you've always had, what you've always been capable of expressing. You were never looking, you were remembering. And now that you remember, the real adventure begins. Conclusion. The field responds to what you are, not what you want. As we reach the end of this journey together, I want you to feel the profound shift that has occurred in your understanding. You began this audiobook believing that manifestation was about attracting things from outside yourself, about convincing the universe to give you what you want, about becoming worthy enough or aligned enough to receive your desires. You're ending it with the recognition that you are not separate from what you seek, that you are the field that creates your reality, that you are the consciousness that manifests as your experience. This is not just a change in technique or strategy. This is a fundamental transformation in how you understand yourself and your relationship to reality. You now know that you are not a separate being trying to get something from life, but life itself expressing through the unique perspective that is you. You understand that you don't attract your reality, you emit it. You don't manifest your desires, you embody them. You don't become what you want, you remember what you are. The field of consciousness that surrounds you and creates your experience doesn't respond to your wishes, your wants, your hopes, or your dreams. It responds to what you are, to the frequency you're broadcasting, to the consciousness you're embodying, to the truth you're expressing in each moment. It's not listening to your words or analyzing your intentions. It's reading your vibrational signature and reflecting it back to you as your lived experience. This means that all the techniques, all the methods, all the practices of conscious creation are really just ways of helping you remember and embody what you already are. Visualization works not because it sends messages to the universe, but because it helps you experience yourself as already being what you desire. Affirmations work not because they convince external forces to help you, but because they remind you of truths about your nature that you've forgotten. Gratitude works not because it makes you more deserving, but because it aligns you with the abundance that you are. The body knows before you do because it's connected to intelligence that transcends the limitations of the thinking mind. It's reading the field, sensing what's coming, picking up information from dimensions that your rational mind can't access. When you learn to trust your body's wisdom, to follow its guidance, to work with its intelligence, you discover that you have access to a guidance system that can navigate you toward the experiences you're meant to have. Coherence is the language of creation because the universe itself operates through coherent patterns and principles. When you align all aspects of your being, when you eliminate internal conflicts and mixed signals, when you become a clear, focused transmitter of your intentions, the field has no choice but to respond with matching clarity and power. You become like a laser instead of a light bulb, concentrating your creative force into an irresistible beam of manifestation. What you see is who you are because reality is always a perfect mirror, reflecting back to you the exact contents of your consciousness. Every person who triggers you is showing you something about yourself that needs healing. Every situation that frustrates you reveals a belief that needs examining. Every pattern that repeats in your life is pointing to a program that needs updating. The mirror never lies, and when you learn to read it accurately, it becomes your most valuable teacher. The inner gatekeeper that blocks what you ask for is not your enemy, but a part of yourself that was created to protect you from the pain and disappointment you experienced in your early years. This gatekeeper operates below the threshold of conscious awareness, determining what you're allowed to receive based on old programming about what's safe for you to have. Working with this gatekeeper, expanding its definition of what's safe, proving to it that you can handle more good in your life, is essential for anyone who wants to become a powerful, conscious creator. When you visualize like you already are, instead of like you're still waiting, you collapse the gap between desire and fulfillment. You stop affirming separation and start embodying unity. You stop reaching for a future state and start expressing a present reality. This shift transforms visualization from a technique for getting something you don't have into a practice for being what you already are. Emotion is the script that reality performs because the field responds most directly to your feeling states. Your emotions are not reactions to your circumstances, but the creative force that generates your circumstances. When you understand this, you stop waiting for your life to change so you can feel better and start feeling better so your life can change. You become the conscious author of your emotional script instead of an unconscious victim of emotional reactions. Doubt is the silent saboteur that undermines every conscious intention because it operates below the threshold of awareness, quietly eroding your confidence and gradually convincing you that what you want is impossible. Learning to recognize doubt, to distinguish it from genuine inner wisdom, to question its assumptions and choose faith over limitation is crucial for maintaining the clear signal necessary for conscious creation. And finally, you were never looking for anything outside yourself because everything you've been seeking has always existed within you. The love, abundance, peace, joy, and success you've been chasing are not external rewards to be earned but internal realities to be remembered. You are not incomplete and in need of completion. You are whole, perfect, and complete by nature, temporarily forgetting your true identity, playing the cosmic game of rediscovery. This understanding changes everything about how you approach life. You stop being a seeker and start being an expresser. You stop trying to attract your good and start emitting your good. You stop working to become someone different and start being who you've always been. You stop asking the universe for what you want and start expressing what you are. But this transformation is not a one-time event. It's an ongoing process of remembering, embodying, and expressing your true nature. Each day offers new opportunities to practice being what you are instead of trying to get what you want. Each challenge becomes a chance to remember your power. Each relationship becomes a mirror for your love. Each experience becomes a canvas for your creativity. The field will always respond to what you are, not what you want. This is both the challenge and the gift of conscious living. The challenge is that you must become what you desire instead of just wanting it. You must embody abundance instead of just hoping for it. You must love instead of just seeking it. You must express peace instead of just wishing for it. The gift is that when you align with this truth, when you stop trying to get something from life and start expressing something as life, when you remember that you are the field that creates your reality, your creative power becomes unlimited. You discover that you are not at the mercy of external circumstances, but the conscious creator of them. You realize that you are not separate from what you seek, but the very thing you've been seeking. This is not another manifestation book because manifestation implies separation between you and what you desire. This is a remembering book, a recognition book, an awakening book. It's an invitation to remember what you've always been, to recognize what you've always had, to awaken to the truth that you've always been the very thing you've been looking for. The field responds to what you are. The question is no longer how to get what you want. The question is, who will you choose to be? What frequency will you choose to emit? What reality will you choose to create through the consciousness you embody? You are not a human being having a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. You are not a wave separate from the ocean. You are the ocean expressing itself as a wave. You are not a seeker looking for truth. You are truth itself, awakening to its own nature. The field is waiting for you to remember who you are. Reality is ready to reflect back to you the truth of your being. The universe is prepared to respond to the frequency of your authentic self. Stop attracting. Start emitting. Stop seeking. Start being. Stop wanting. Start expressing. You are the field. You are the frequency. You are the creative force that shapes reality through the power of your consciousness. Remember this truth, embody this truth, live this truth, and watch as your world transforms to match the magnificent reality of who you truly are.